Come on, y'all tune in on this thing really quickly. I just want to, I gotta give God his glory. I gotta give God his due. God bless each and every one of y'all on this morning. Yes, God. Yes, God. Come on, y'all tune in, jump in on this thing right now. I gotta give God his credit. I gotta give God all glory for what he continues to do. Something very, very strange happened, but God did it for a reason. God bless each and every one of y'all as y'all are tuning in. I got to give God his credit. If you're looking for a healing, if you're looking for increase, if you're looking for God to do anything, he gave me instructions. I'm sorry. He instructed me, but he gave me instructions last night on what he needs us to do. And so I cannot, oh man, I cannot go another minute. Thanks, Pastor Marcus Jordan. Thanks, Jay. Thanks to each and every one of y'all. I cannot go another minute. Have you ever been in a situation where you're looking for God? And have you ever been in a situation where you're going through? Have you ever been in a situation where something was going wrong and you were like, God, I need you to show up now. God, I don't know how you're going to do it, but God, I'm trusting you anyway. God, I don't even know why I'm back in this situation, but I'm trusting you anyway. Come on, is that anybody testimony besides mine that said that I've been in some situations that I didn't know how God was going to do it? I've been in some situations where I found myself not doubting God, but asking him for his time and asking him to do this and asking him to do that. And I'm waiting on God to show up. God bless y'all. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I could not go another minute. As y'all know, my wife was in the hospital. We were in the hospital all last night. And she came home. For those of you that don't know, I'm gonna release it to y'all because I want somebody to be blessed by this, because many times we go on and we just say a word, but we don't really get revelation. But God gave me a revelation. God gave me a revelation in the hospital last night. God gave me a revelation while I was sitting there by her side. And so what happened was she came home. We were preparing to leave and go to an event for a conference this weekend. What's going on, Troy? J.D. Jefferson, God bless each and every one of y'all. We were preparing to go to an event last night, and what happened was she came home and she said, I'm not going to be able to go. And she said, you know, my head is hurting extremely bad. And so she began to attempt to lay down, but she got out of the bed because she was in so much pain. And when she got out of the bed and went into another room, she collapsed on the floor. Oh man, she collapsed on the floor. And so what happened was I immediately tried to get her up, and in getting her up, she began to vomit uncontrollably. And so at this particular moment, I said, you know what, God, we got to make a decision. And so I decided to take her to the hospital, and we get to the hospital, and oh man, if you know God, if you need a healing, I just need you to declare and decree. I'm sorry, my words all over the place because I'm super emotional right now because y'all don't understand what God does. I said God, and we get to the hospital and they admit her in the hospital and we're waiting and they're taking blood and they're doing all of these things. And what happened was the room was spinning for her. She was off balance. She was dizzy. She could barely walk. She could barely move. And so she got admitted into the hospital, and we're sitting there. And like I said, they came and drew her blood, and they're checking all of her vitals, and they're doing all of these things. And so what began to happen was I began to pray. In that moment, I said, God, I need a sign from you. God, I need you to do something. God, I need you to work something out. And so I just want to decree and declare over everybody on this thing right now. You got to get into a place that before you start doubting, or you got to get into a place that before you start worrying, you let your worship carry you through. Many times when we lose on something, or many times when we're in pain, or many times where we're in bondage, and many times when we're hurting, the first thing we do is doubt God, or the first thing we do is try to say, you know, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get through this? I don't know what's going to happen. And God is saying, how bad are you going to trust me? If you need anything, you're going to have to trust me. If you want it to be done, Jay, I'm about to lose my mind on here, because what God revealed to me when my wife was laid up in this hospital bed last night, what God revealed to me, what God said was, watch this. Before you make a request, I need you to remember. Oh, Jesus. He said, before you make another request, he said, listen, before you make a request, I need you to remember. And I want to decree and declare it over your life right even now that before you make another request to God, you need to remember. What are you saying? God hit me because I said, God, my wife is laid up here in the hospital and she's in pain and she can barely see, she can barely move and all of this. And God is saying, before you ask me to do anything, I need you to remember what I've already done. Listen, there is, oh my God, listen, there is power in remembrance. There is power in remembrance. What are you saying? Because many times we go to God with all of these requests, and many times we go to God asking and begging him to do all of these things. And God is saying, before you can request, first you got to remember. What are you saying? David said it like this in Psalms 23. He says, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Watch this. He didn't say the Lord shall be my shepherd. He didn't say that the Lord one day will be my shepherd, but he said the Lord is. So if he says that the Lord is, that means that he has already experienced some things with God that signified and that brought back to his remembrance what God had already done. God stopped me right there in the hospital and he says, listen, this ain't the first time y'all been in this. I don't need you to make another request. I need you to remember, this ain't the first time that you struggle. This ain't the first time that you've been in pain. Come on now, for many of you, this ain't the first time you've been heartbroken. This ain't the first time you haven't had clarity or something. And what God stopped me and said that if I did it before, oh Jesus, if I did it before, I'll do it again. But what I need you to understand is that before you make another request, I need you to remember. Because when you remember, you will worship me right there. When you remember, you won't even have to make a request. When you remember, you won't even have to say anything because you can just think back over what he's already brought you through. This ain't the first time you didn't have the finances. This ain't the first time you've lost a job. This ain't the first time you've been church hurt. This ain't the first time people have walked out on you. This ain't the first time your bills have stacked up. This ain't the first time you've been in the hospital. This ain't the first time you've been in ICU. This ain't the first time you've been down and out. What God is saying that if I brought you through that, I'm not going to allow you to die here. Listen, and when I begin to remember, I love it because when you remember what God has already done, when you remember the ways he's already has already made, when you remember the doors that he has already opened, you can begin to give him, oh my God, you can begin to give him praise right then and there. So watch what happens. Watch what happens when I remembered, oh God, Troy, you got to help me, brother. When I remembered on what God had already done. When I remembered on how God had already healed my wife through one situation. When I remembered on how God had already shown his favor to us in certain circumstances. When I remembered how God snatched us out of our mess, how God snatched us out of our sin, how God snatched us out of these strongholds. When I remembered on those things, watch what happens. God sent me a sign. Yeah. See, oh my God. The power is not in the request, but the power is in the remembrance. The power is not in the request, but the power is in the remembrance. Watch what God does, and I'm too excited. I'm too excited. I gotta calm down because I'm preparing to go minister in an hour. I gotta calm down. But watch what God does. God sends me a sign that everything is going to be all right. So we're sitting there and she's in the bed and she's laying down. She's subconscious. She's in and out of consciousness. And she asked me, I said, hey, do you want to watch TV? Because the lights had been bothering her eyes and they were real sensitive and her head was pounding. I said, do you want me to turn on the TV? And she said, yes, it's fine. Go ahead and turn it on. And when we turned on the TV, oh God, when we turned on the TV, the first thing, watch this, we didn't have to flip to it. We didn't have to turn to it. But when we turned on the TV, TBN was on. TBN was on. Oh my God. And I don't care what y'all think or how y'all feel about them, but TBN was on and Joel Osteen was on the television screen talking about divine healing. Y'all missed it. Y'all missed it. When you remember what God has already done, he'll send you a sign. We turn on the TV And we don't even have to flip a channel, but the first channel that is on the television already is TBN. And while I'm looking for a sign from God, the first thing I see when I turn on the TV is Joel Osteen, Pastor Joel Osteen, oh my God, talking about, here it is, talking about divine healing. And talking about you got to call those things out so God can cancel it. Y'all still missing it. God sent me a sign in the hospital. God sent me a sign with my wife laid up in a hospital room that everything was going to be all right. The doctor had not even came back and gave a report. The nurses had not even came and gave her medicine yet. And when I turned on the TV, God had sent a sign that says that divine healing is your portion. Okay, y'all don't like that. Y'all don't like that. Cool. All right. I'll do you one better. Tell you how good God is. So we watched this segment of divine healing and talking about calling out and canceling things and talking about praying to God and God hearing your prayer and talking about identifying what it is so God can come in and work and anoint those areas. But after that goes off, here it is. After that goes off, oh my God. After that goes off, watch what happens. I'm flipping through the channels. I'm flipping through the screens. And while I'm flipping through the screens, I stop at a particular channel. Now, if those of you that were on the live yesterday, I know it's been taken down. I know it's been deleted. But if you were on the live yesterday talking about taking my powers back and talking about not allowing the enemy to steal my powers anymore and talking about claiming kingdom authority, I gave reference to the movie Space Jam. And I gave reference to the movie Space Jam, talking about a moment in the movie where Larry Johnson, one of the ex-NBA players, was talking about, I'm taking my powers back. Now watch what happens. TBN, that had already took me out. I had already begun to give God praise. But do you know that same reference that I gave on live yesterday, that movie was on in the hospital? Y'all ain't got to celebrate for me. I celebrate by myself. That movie was on in the hospital. Now, there was one thing for TBN to be talking about divine healing, but the same movie that I gave reference to, the same metaphor that I used and gave reference to from a movie, that same movie, now, you can call it coincidence and you can call it, oh my God, ironically, but I call it divine fate. That was God's way of showing that those very same words that you spoke, you're going to need them now. Yeah. Oh, it was God's way of showing me that everything that we had been through, you were going to need it now. So watch what happens. Watch what happens. And I got to leave y'all alone because I got to go. Watch what happens. The nurse comes in and they begin to give her medicine and they're saying they're still waiting on lab results and they stand that they're still waiting on all of these things. So watch what begins to happen. And I'm through here. So I didn't,